You're not, I mean, I'm raving on. You ain't ready.
Yeah, let's roll.
All right, ready. Okay. One of the principles of this outfit was to put great art on the covers of these books. This is a painting by Dennis DeFoge of Boise, Idaho. It's won a lot of prizes, and he just had another one-woman show with his wife, Jenny Bennett DeFoge, in Boise. This painting probably has a title. If I go to the inside of here, I can probably do it. Probably find it. Well, maybe not. Well, it has a title of some kind. Then there's this by Journeyman. This young poet, Mr. Stephen Thomas, is in Stuttgart, Germany at this point. This is a woodcut from the 14th century, I believe, maybe 15th century. Let's take a look at that. The woodcut is by Jos Ammons, and it was about 1525. See, so we're ancient history here as well as contemporary news. And then one of the other things we did was poetry parties. The last poetry party, let me repeat myself. The last poetry party was in 2005. And there's some of the personnel who were in the party, and my people who helped put it on. There's Sharon Dubiago, the late Janine Palme Vega, various other folks who were here. It's been 7 years now since we've had one of these. 7 lean years, as they say in the Bible. So it's about time for 7 fat years. Would you say? You don't say. No. Here's another great cover. We got visuals to burn here. This is the cover of Pacific Northwestern Spiritual Poetry, widely regarded as one of the most important anthologies of the last half of the 20th century, and maybe the first half of the 21st century. This painting is one of Robert McNeely's studies for trying to see the flood. That would be the Pleistocene floods that scraped across the Badlands, or the Scab Lands, not the Badlands. There were no Badlands in Washington. They're all Scab lands, Scab labor lands, maybe. But Lake Missoula used to get out of its boundaries all the time and come rushing across eastern Washington at an enormous rate of speed, like 50 kilometers an hour, 100 kilometers high. Washing away everything in its path, so to speak. Especially poets. We did a shot one time of the poem. Well, hey, while we're on the subject of McNeely, there's another one of those great covers. This is also from Attempting to See the Flood. This is a book called Lost River Mountain. Yes. Paintings everywhere, great paintings. Now you see over here the failure of a distribution scheme big time. This is a magazine. These are copies of a magazine called The Temple. You may have seen visuals of the upper story of the Temple building. There's one right there, which is where this book was published, or where this magazine was published, and we now have progressive meetups in that building, and there's a vegan cafe and a patisserie and a bunch of other more ordinary businesses taking place in that building. We did 21 issues of this, one every 90 days for 5.5 years, and they're still available in case anybody reading YouTube wants to have some of them. All you got to do is call, and get some bucks over here, for instance. I mean, like to pay the postage. I would sell it before I got so. Here's a cute visual too. Yeah, I can see this. The coyote, and also McNeely. This book is replete with coyotes, as is most of the West. The coyotes. There are 4 kinds of life that are going to survive this thing: the coyotes, the cockroaches, the wharf rats, and the Tea Party. Not really. They're going down first. Anyway, and then here's this famous book called How the South Finally Won the Civil War. Y'all want to pick some tall cotton? Y'all want to piss off half the people in Oklahoma? who weren't even in the Confederacy, but by God, they're to the right of them, the ones that ain't Indians. And everybody in Oklahoma is an Indian, including Elizabeth Warren. You know, you never know where the Indians stop and start. I'll open one of these up and show you another nice cover. Hey, I got some of these still to burn too. You know, the Southerners were kind of unhappy that I outed them for having won the Civil War. They think they lost the Civil War. They don't know the half of it. Lindsey Graham, Senator DeMint, John Cornyn, Saxby Chambliss. Doesn't that name just ring to your Confederate rafters? I mean, that's as hot as John Calhoun. No, Saxby Chambliss. You know, he was a draft dodger who beat a quadriplegic disabled war veteran. That's how South he was. Anyway, all right. Well, anyway, this is a serious book, by the way. I mean, it's not a foo-foo about what would happen if they had won. It's what happened when they did win. You know, they're running the place, and they don't like this Kenyan socialist. You know, in the president of Obamastan said this morning in the village of Myanmar, which used to be Burma, which is somewhere on after Shave, and it's in the Far East. The president said, the Kenyan socialist said, that things are going pretty well over there. And he was happy to be traveling, you know, after having drubbed a Mormon. Well, you know, I don't know, how long do you want to make this? Did you look at some of Smokey's paintings here that are sitting in front of your stool?
Oh, I like that.
Now what? Want me to speak? Oof. Yes, this is a memoir of Berkeley. It's called The Yellow Christ, named after a painting by Paul Gauguin, the syphilitic eaten remains of an impressionist painter from France. The Yellow Christ, if you haven't seen a repro of it or the actual painting, is this wonderful chartreuse painting of a Christ emaciated to the point of being bulimic and hanging on the cross, but it was chartreuse, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's just an amazing picture. So anyway, this is about, the title comes from, you know, certain friends of mine wanted to weave a Christ conspiracy around me when I was in Berkeley, and I said, no thanks. And that's why the Yellow Christ, you know, cowardly. Anyway, it's also got a lot of poetry in it, all the poetry.
Can you read some of it out of there?
Can I read some of it? Well, I don't know. I mean, this has the F word in it. Can I read the F word on YouTube? Does that still go? Okay. This is called A Little Birdie Told Me. I have taken away its sound, and you hear it coming at you, covered with feathers and beyond control. I could have loved you when you put your hand in my crotch, drunk in church and high on your own kind of trip. Yours is one of the fastest minds and softest mouths I hear. I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener. Meat demands it continue. My woman would have killed you if I'd have had one, dancing alone through Market Street where no birds sing, but all night construct the shock of the heart. Icarus didn't die. That's a Greek mistake. It's impossible to get too close to the sun. He's eating his tail, only 4 million miles away. Can you hear? He digs it. I saw every fucking star in the sky tonight. Icarus is coming. Run for your life. Icarus is coming. Run for your life. There were some really beautiful visuals on the web the other day of solar flares on the sun. Huge, looping orange didos coming out of the hydrogen mess on the sun. That was really, really interesting. I mean, I'm a big believer in astronomy. You know, I mean, here we are in a country where 46% of the people think the Earth is less than 10,000 years old. Have we got an education problem or what? You know, would that be a failure of public education? 46% of the people think the Earth is only 10,000 years old or less than, including Marco Rubio of Florida. What kind of jackasses do they think they take us for? You know, does astronomy mean anything to anyone? I mean, you know, sometimes I get really exercised about these crackpots. Southern strategy, Marco Rubio's Southern strategy. You know, let's nip this Cuban in the bud. We don't need a Cuban president of the United States. We've already got a Kenyan. You know, we don't need a Cuban. Anyway. Well, that was a poem. What else can I find? I want to read, if I can find it, a poem by a Chinese poet. One of the things that made this magazine special. I need it. You got to have a real bloodhound's nose to find the right issue. And here it is. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. And if you know anything about Chinese poetry, you know that they tend to drink, like Du Fu and Li Po. And I mean, what else is there to do in China? You know, I mean, besides write poetry and drink. Well, I mean, I don't know. But here's the part of a wonderful poem by Yan Li, who's and this magazine, by the way, we had original Chinese poetry with translation and original Spanish poetry with translation, first publication of in one magazine. It's the only one in the history of the universe, capital U. Manoa doesn't do that. Second line of the other translation magazines don't do that. Chinese, Spanish in each issue. This is called, back to the drunken Chinese poem, The Warm Flush of Poetry. In my body, there are keggfuls of Chinese beer, sloshing. Words like pretty goldfish stir up ripples of affection. For the moment, I can't bear to cast a poet's net. And so, I knock back a few on the bank before the fishing starts. By the time the doctor uses an x-ray to tell me the goldfish in my body have paired off into romantic lines, it's all I can do to lift my eyelids and imagine the doctor's mask is tomorrow's net because I am drunk on the operating table. I love that. I just love that. And I love Yan Li's a great painter as well as a great poet. Mem Lang, Shui Di, who else? There's a famous guy and many famous Chinese poets appeared in this magazine. That's a poem I could read if I could find the book. Let's see. There must be one around here. It's the one in which I'll get the whole poem. That's it's worth digging out. But it will require some digging, I think. It's going to be right here. Hey! Yeah, you know, once upon a time I said books are for people who like to carry things around. So if any of you people still want to carry things around, remember, get in touch. I'm sitting on this inventory and I'm giving it away. So get here! Worry before it's gone and you say, damn, I didn't get there in time. There's another great cover. This one is by Smokey Ferris for the book Across the North Pacific. And let's see, I would this poem. Let's see, maybe that would be in. Wrong. Pardon me, if I'm sentimental when the day goes by. I'm a fool, but I love you, dear, until the day I die. Now and then there's a fool such as I. Y chinga su madre. Y chinga su madre is a new kind of poem. Could only in English be composed, but you still got to understand Spanish and Chinese or the metaphor will fail you. A yoke of the sacred and profane. Y chinga su madre sets the limit. Like mama we huevos and cao ni de xing, we will surrender in Spanish to the Chinese. That's, that's a long distance poem. And here's one for Mayor Bloomberg. Mayor Bloomberg and Governor Cuomo. Can anybody see past the middle of next week? I mean, these jackasses are talking about spending $17 billion or $20 billion to build a floodgate for New York City because their goddamn subway is underwater. And La Nina. We have 2 seasons now, summer and 6 months of October, when the wind drives rain directly east to west on a jet stream equidistantly south of the simple Arctic Circle. Formerly the snow would fall and drift on wind occasionally blowing north to south when ice would form on top of water. I miss fall, much less spring, this missing winter of the human heart. Who would have thought it mattered how cold the ocean gets? There was another cute article on the internet the other day about the fact that we have been 28 years in which every month after the preceding month, the average is hotter than the average temperature for that month. 28 years, 332 months of constantly rising temperatures. And it's been 1988 when James Hansen, the NASA scientist, went before Congress and said, you guys have fucked up. And the Earth is getting warmer. And of course, Senator Imhoff from Oklahoma said, well, still, global warming is just a conspiracy. It's nothing happening. We couldn't possibly have done it. I mean, temperatures change. It's climate change. It's not global warming. I mean, and they're going to be completely underwater before they get done jabbering about it. Not in Oklahoma, which is 300 feet above sea level, but I wouldn't buy any property in the Hamptons, for instance. I'd be selling that shit if I had anything in the Hamptons. Let it go, you one percenters. Move to the hills. Get back in the Catskills with Rip Van Winkle, or go all the way to the Adirondacks. Really get comfortable. I can't take those people through New York. New York, New York. Rip, 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 rip. Jesus, sorry. No wonder I never got famous. Is that? Oh dear, excuse me. New York? Could you tell me, is this the way to New York? I remember when I was a child, I had a wonderful little book about a train that went to Weehawken, Hoboken, and Troy, which I have a feeling was on the west side of the river from Manhattan. And anyway, so here it is, a book full of a room full of poetry, a room full of poets. Thousands of poets. Let's see, there were 80 pages in each issue, probably 60 of it was high-grade poetry, times 20 issues, times 6. Let's see, 6 times 2 is 1,200. There are 12,000 pages. 12,000 pages? 1,200 pages. I'm not very good with math. Lots of poetry. Let's use a word that will quantify everything. Lots.
Well, can't you read 2 or 3 of your own?
I did.
More.
He said more. What? Well, let's see. I'll have to find some. Some short ones. Some pithy little. Here's one. Here's one that my. Somewhere over here. Let's see if I can find it. I have a picture of this guy. I put lots of pictures of poets on here so people could tell what poets look like, There. Where'd he go? All right. Here's a hot one. Here's a picture of Andy Clausen, Charles Potts, and Charles Plymell. A couple of old renegade beatniks and me, the chairman of the Joint Chamber of Commerce there in the middle. I don't know. And I can't find the picture that I want. So, is that me? Oh, here, I have found it. Takes a while, but there it shows up. This is Jim Bodine, great poet, great publisher, great human being. His book, This House, was reviewed in the Bloomsbury Review as being as much a prophecy as Leaves of Grass by a guy named Ray Gonzalez. Anyway, Jim published this book, Lost River Mountain, and he really liked this poem. Hide. I'm a boy again, riding shotgun in a black and red 1948 Dodge pickup with my dad, crossing the Arco Desert with our cargo of cured hides. My father was a government trapper, and I'm a government trapper's son. Halfway to the Hyde House on Yellowstone Avenue in Idaho Falls, we plow through an Atomic Energy Commission plot. The mink, the muskrat, and the coyotes, to say nothing of the beaver, have turned themselves inside out. Into Levi's, I might get to wear clean new clothes to school with the animals under my skin. PETA is looking out for me, or looking out for where I used to be. That's the first poem in the book, and here's the last poem in the book. If you've got time, you got enough film for this. Shall I break the camera? I mean, for one last time. Georgia, Georgia, a song of you comes sweet and clear like moonlight through the pines. Raspberry Redux. Now that the women I learned the most about raspberries, hard work, and love from, my mother and Dorothy Ivy, are both dead, I pull the rapidly growing morning glory from the bases of my transplanted canes after all the other work is done, and the late afternoon spring sun warms the earth and my back, slightly bent, as gloved hands grip the handle of a hoe with a thin, intentional blade. You're peering into that machine in a mysterious manner. What else can I do for you? Oh, hey, here's one. In case I ever need to go incognito, this will be one of the nitos that I go in. It's me passing through phases of life, you know. And then, of course, here's what I really look like. Lengthy. So, here's yeah. I just remembered. I told you the other day that I got a gig reading poems in Spokane, but I think what I need here is to read. I put this book together. I mean, I actually had a hand in the layout of this book. Easter surprise. We're off season here, but on point. Easter surprise. Downwind of Christian capitalism. Vile, loathsome smells of Boise Cascades paper mill blow in on the wind from Wallula to foul up the thin and beautiful pagan fog of morning. People began worshiping the sun. Theology has gone downhill ever since. There are billions of people, Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus, Republicans, who believe libraries full of fantasies for which there's not a shred of reproducible evidence. They meet in difficult to appreciate rooms full of noisy fools for whom one life on earth is not enough. Here's another greatest hit kind of poem. It's called Geezers in Space, aka The Case for American Exceptionalism for John Glenn et al. You hear a lot about American exceptionalism. Well, here's the last thing you need to know. All Americans are exceptional. Let them tell you. It was an exceptionally wide path God cleared for them through the exceptionally beautiful American wilderness, over an exceptionally large number of dead Indians, creating the exceptional doctrine of manifest destiny, which manifests itself in their exceptional reluctance to acknowledge the exceptional scale of the genocide that is the bedrock of their exceptionality. The exceptionally rigid American Constitution has governed the United States for an exceptional length of time, disguising the plutocratic use of power as democracy exceptionally well. Look at all the exceptional immigrants ratifying these exceptional choices. The last thing anybody needs to know anything about is geriatric reactions in space. And so, an exceptionally large amount of money was blown into space to discover the effect of weightlessness on mindlessness. I made the camera guy laugh. Listen, this is, you have to, oh, there it is. Gee, these should have been, I don't know how these got so screwed up in terms of why they're where they are, but here, this is the last of these poems from the Portable Pots. If you really want to take somebody along for a ride, you can get the Portable Nietzsche, or you can get the Portable Pots. You'd be better off with the Portable Pots, because Nietzsche went nuts and never came back. I went nuts and I'm here to tell about it. That's the difference. Mamalosen and Patriarspect. Poetry is written in Mamalosen. Editorials are written in Patriarspect. You home from the ordeals? How about some biscuits and gravy? A little pillow for your head and a brief nap. Maybe a bath and a new shirt. This shirt will have some lace at the collar, a bit too frilly for the army perhaps, but your mother is taking over here, and if she's dressing you up like a girl, it's only because she's trying to make you appealing to a girl, the girl next door, to be exact. It won't take many of these home-cooked meals to have you longing for combat again. Life around the house is simply too challenging. Putting the lid of the toilet seat down, taking the clothes out of the dryer, knowing which clothes go into the dryer in the first place. Pounce upon a time when war was the cure for this nonsense. Now this nonsense is the war, and everybody's homeless. Serenity, infinity, and culpability. What? Well, I wrote a song. This is the chorus. I read some really facetious thing. Oh, it was this crazy book from the 1920s, but it said the verse wasn't much, but the chorus was art. He drank whiskey straight from the bottle. He served in World War II. He kept his foot firmly on the throttle. It was God got him down to O'Doul's.